Hello, everyone. I think we're live. It looks like everything's working. I'll wait to get started too much until you guys let me know that the audio and everything is okay. Try to scooch some stuff out of the way. Trying to fit as much as possible on the screen. I'm really looking forward to getting an actual PC in here and having more room on the screen. Just waiting to hear, and we will get started. It seems like if every time that I just assume everything's working and I jump in, okay, sound is good, then that's always the time where there's no audio. So anyway, here we go. So tonight we are going to be painting a desert scene with Cactus. The reference photo is over at my website. Link is in the video description if you want to paint along. The background was from a previous painting, and then the cactus we're going to be adding on. You'll occasionally hear my airbrush kicked on because we're going to be using that a little bit tonight. Don't worry if you don't have an airbrush. You can still paint along. Yours will just be slightly different, and I'll explain where you would do your, well, basically you would just skip the part where I'm going to airbrush, so totally doable for anybody. So tonight I am working on a Frederick's watercolor canvas board, and just for transparency, this canvas was provided to me by Frederick's. They were already the only canvas that I used, so no difference there. Now you may be thinking, well, a watercolor, you're working in acrylics, why would you use that? I've actually never even tried these with watercolor. I probably should one of these days. I've not heard good results from most people, who knows? But for me personally, I love them for acrylics. They work so well for just, they're so smooth, and with acrylics and with getting smooth blending, that smooth surface is a very big deal. So that is why I'm going with this one. Now this is a canvas board, so when this is framed, what I would do, and actually when I have the live sale coming up in a couple of weeks, I'm going to show you guys during that how to very easily frame these. But basically you can get any very inexpensive frame. The ones that have glass for some reason are cheaper than the open frames that we would typically put a painting in. All you do on that, go get a regular 8x10 frame, pop out the glass, stick this in, move the little tabs that held the glass in place, done. It's ready to hang on the wall. Super simple, and you can get them for fairly inexpensive. Like I went this week to Michael's and got them. The 8x10s were on sale. I think I spent like $6 to $8 a piece, depending on which one I got. I got like basic black. So for an 8x10. So you can frame them for very inexpensively. Of course, you can get fancier ones if you want, but nice, easy way to get things framed. Now, throughout the live stream, you are more than welcome to leave, actually I encourage you, please ask questions, art-related questions, anything you want to know. And at the end of the stream, when I'm done with the painting portion of this, then I will be answering all of those questions and going back over that. So just keep those questions coming in. And the auction has started for this. So this painting, I am going to be auctioning the finished painting off. I think there's a buy it now option on this one. Someone will have to look and see. The link is in the video description. The starting bid on this is $55 for a blank white canvas. I promise it's going to be better, but there we go. So, you're taking a bit of a risk if you bid it right away. Maybe you would hate it. I mean, I doubt it. It's fine. Of course you're going to love it. Hi, my head is way too large. Anyway, moving on. Let's go ahead. I'm trying to think where I can put my phone where Discord messages come through for the mods in case I need them. During this, don't feel like I'm ignoring you when you ask a question and I don't answer. I mean, technically I'm ignoring you, but only temporarily. We'll be getting to that later on. And the hounds say hello. They're here tonight. And there we go. Okay, so I'm going to get started. And I've also, at the end of the stream, we're going to talk about what to do when somebody wants free or low-cost work from you. We're going to be talking about not destroying your acrylic paintbrushes. And what was the third thing? I had 3 topics. There was a good one. Too bad I can't remember it. Good thing I have it written down because, pinpointing what's wrong with a painting. Tips for figuring out what's wrong and how to fix them. So there we go. Okay. Now we are going to get started. And what I'm going to do is start with a sunset. So this area here, I may have to adjust the lighting a bit. We'll see once I start putting color on this. But this portion here is going to be focused in yellow. I'm going to fade up into oranges. And I don't use, usually, unless I'm doing a glaze, I don't use orange. The paints I'm using are Liquitex Basics. Their orange are horribly translucent. Great for glazing, not for applying paint normally. So I'll just be mixing a bit of red in with that. Then I'll start adding magenta as I move up, and then into my primary or whatever dark blue you're going to go with. So transition will be yellow, orange, red, magenta, blue. And this is going to keep our yellow from mixing with our blue and getting green in the sky where we don't want it. So a little tip there when you're trying to do a sunset, you're like the blue and the green keep mixing and or the blue and the yellow mix and I get yellow. This is why we've got some buffer colors in between. Okay, now the first painting or brush I'm going to use, this is a number 12. This is a Tack Lumber Silk Filbert. This is the Master's Touch. So, oh, I thought this one was the Simply Simmons. This one is Master Touch. It's the generic one from Hobby Lobby. And I'm going to thin that with some water. And I'm going to try to remember tonight to keep my microphone in my face. I've been doing a terrible job of that lately. I'm not going to, actually I probably am. I'm going to add a little bit of white. So it's going to give me kind of a peachy or a pale yellow color. And I'm going to start down here. Mine is much lighter yellow than what yours looks like on screen. I may have to make some adjustments. Hold on 1 second here. That is not quite right. Configure. Give me just a second. Okay, Buy It Now is showing on the auction page, though. That is an option. This is always a problem. Oh, yeah, brightness went way down. What in the world? Now we're getting closer. Oops, not that direction. More around here. That's closer to what mine looks like. Okay, much better. Okay, we can just actually leave that on there as we move our way up. Now, I've got to keep in mind, black is going to be on a large portion of the bottom, so I need to pull yellow fairly far up. Farther than you think you're going to want it to be yellow. Now, I'm going to mix a bit of red on the same brush. I don't even need to wipe it off. I can use the same yellow that's on there, and I want these two to mix together. Now, what I'm going to do is take my Fine Mist Sprayer, if I can find it. Here it is. So this guy, Fine Mist Sprayer, this gives a really, really fine mist, hence the name. And I'm going to go lightly over that. A spray bottle like you use for your plants or cleaning the house or whatever you use a normal spray bottle for will not work the same. It needs to be that Fine Mist Sprayer to get that super, super fine mist. Point is, I want this to stay wet as I blend. I'm going to get a little bit more of the red on my brush. And see, now I get that nice orange. If I had used orange with Liquitex, as much as I love Liquitex Basics, their orange is like, it's not good for applying the paint. I definitely prefer to mix. And I'm going to go ahead and blend this. And I want to make sure that if I have streaks, they go side to side. Keep them horizontal. I don't want to blend all over the place right now. Streaks are fine. As long as they're horizontal, they just look like streaks in the sky. Now, I'm going to go ahead and wipe my brush off on a paper towel. And then after I wipe it off, I'm going to rinse it. I know you can't see that. You can just assume that's what I'm doing. And now I'm going to switch over to my deep violet. Any magenta sort of color would work. And I'm going to let this pull and mix in too. And it can even come down. I've got a little bit too much water. Dab some of that off on my paper towel. Same thing, side to side. Now remember, we're not trying to really mix the colors together. We want a nice gradient. Don't overdo the blending because you will create a muddy mess where you don't have definite lights and darks. We want those lights and darks. And I think what I'm going to do is do this in 2 layers because this is a pretty fast project anyway. And that will give me a bit more richness and take away some of the pressure. One of the things that will often happen when you're painting and you're trying to figure out where the color goes, you're worried about getting the right color in addition to getting it blended perfectly. If we do this in 2 layers, we don't even have to worry so much about it. Plus, right now we're fighting against the white of the canvas, which makes things a little bit more difficult anyway. So if we just do it in 2 layers, it will make life much easier. So that is what we're going to do. So now I'm going to go ahead and rinse this off. And I'm going to switch over to blue. I'm using primary blue tonight. Actually, all the colors I'm using, I've got primary blue, primary yellow, and primary red. And we're going to do this all on the top section here. I need this to stay wet, so if it starts to dry, I can take my Fine Mist Sprayer and fix that. And the nice thing about doing this in layers, I can come back on the next layer and pull a little bit of black to darken the blue without worrying about it mixing in with my yellow right now. that will make more sense later. This is the downside of working on a canvas board. They're easy to store. They're easy to ship. They don't have anything to grip to. So I'm kind of trying to move my hand around to hold it in place as I move around. What did I need? Fine mist sprayer. Let's just lightly go over this. And the nice thing here, it's not even that big of a deal. If this starts to dry, like none of it really matters because we're gonna go on top of it and we know that. So that takes a lot of the pressure off this first layer. Do not pull that blue down very far. If I go down any further, it starts getting into my orange and into the yellow and I get a muddy color that I'm not looking for. Okay. So now, same thing. I'm going to lightly go over this. This brush that I'm using as a mop brush actually needs to be soaked in a brush cleaner. I'll be talking about that later, but it's creating streaks instead of taking them away. And that can happen for one of two reasons. If you're a blending brush like that or your mop brush, really a powder brush is what I use. Link should be in the video description, but it works better. They don't shed like an actual mop brush. But what happens is if they start to get a little dirty, like I just didn't clean it that well, so it's a little too stiff, it'll create brush strokes instead of taking them away. Or if they start picking up too much paint, they get wet, they'll start creating brush strokes instead of taking them away. So I'm going to go back over it with a really nice soft one. And you notice I'm going in a bit of a diagonal here just to tone this down some. I'll have to adjust that camera again. Mine's a bit overexposed now that I've made the adjustments. I guess it's close enough. It's a little bit darker in person. Now I managed to get some smudges on mine, probably because I worked in charcoal earlier or this week and forgot. So I'm just going to take another clean brush, scoop out whatever these little hair chunk things are that I managed to get in there. There it goes. It looks like eraser marks. See, I've got this little white area there. I don't have to worry about it. I'm painting over this anyway. It does not matter. So I'm making things easier on ourselves. Okay. I'll rinse those brushes off. I'm going to get everything nice and clean before I work on to the next stage. And the reason for that is this is going to dry anyway. My brushes, we don't want that to dry. So let's get those cleaned before something goes badly wrong. Again, what we'll be talking about later. And I need to make sure all the blue is out of this time because when I add the yellow again, we do not want that blue mixing in. So that is totally clean. I'm going to need to grab another paper towel in a moment here. Okay, already got a bid for the auction. Again, you can head over to my website if you want to bid on this guy. That is located there. Okay, I'm going to dry this now. So I'm going to mute myself and hopefully remember to unmute myself after. Actually, before that, because I did use charcoal and I know there's eraser marks all over, I'm going to lift this and blow this out with the hairdryer first. Unmute myself. I don't know if, I knew I would do that. I don't know if this one, I may have when I copied and pasted the listing for the auction. Check if it says that you can upgrade the mat after you win. Don't do that. There's no mat on a painting that was from the drawing. So I may not have updated that correctly. That's what happens when you copy and paste. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing, another layer right on top of that. Now I want my color, my goal here is to make sure my color is really saturated. So let's see. If I have to do a third layer to get that, then I'll do a third layer, however many it takes to get it to where you want it to be. Where did I put my brush? Oh, I need more paper towels too. 1 second. Boys will keep you company. Okay, so, oh, here's the brush. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to start with some yellow. If you get too much water on it, don't wipe it off in your cup. Actually, let's talk about that really quick right now. This is a mistake I see people make. Oh, hold on. My mom is calling and apparently doesn't remember I'm live streaming. 1 second. Where was I? Oh, so one of the things that I often see people do, they have their cup that they're rinsing their paintbrush in, and they'll have paint on the brush and think, okay, great, I need more water because we mix water with our paint. So the next thing they'll do, dip it in here and think, okay, now this right here. See what I'm doing? It's damaging my soul badly. Like this is painful for me. Now I've got paint all on the inside. Look at that. I made a huge, horrible mess for what? Nothing. I accomplished absolutely nothing except for making a mess. Now, I'm not judging you for doing it because it's something we were kind of taught from kids. We all do that. We dip our brush, we dip it in here, whether we're rinsing the brush or what, but we all wipe it on the edge and make a mess. So why does this matter? One, it accomplishes nothing. There's no benefit. If you need to wipe some of the paint off your brush or you need to wipe some of the water off, you don't do it on this. You do it, that's what your paper towels are for. Now, if I put my brush in here and I'm knocking it back and forth, I just picked up yellow paint all along the side there. Now, that would very easily get on my hand, which I can end up with fingerprints all over my work. Don't scrape your brush at any point. See how it's all, look at the mess I made from just doing it one time. Can you imagine at the end of an entire painting session, somebody continuously doing that? I'm going to wipe this off now because I'm neurotic and I don't actually want to have to do this once it's dry. But that is not something that you want. It's a habit. It's going to take you a little bit to get used to not doing it. I'm just going to wipe that off. Honestly, if you start forcing yourself every time you catch yourself doing it that you have to wipe it off, it'll break that habit really fast because it gets annoying to have to keep wiping it off. But it's going to keep you from being such a messy painter. I hear this a lot from people who are too afraid to work in oils. They say, well, I don't want to make a mess. I'm a messy painter. Stop doing that. You won't be such a messy painter. That right there is one of the #1 reasons that people are messy painters. Yet there's no reason to scrape your brush off in there. My paint, just to show you, I keep a paper towel next to my palette because when I dip it in water, if I have too much water or if I have too much paint, it comes off on this, not in the water. It also makes your water dirty really fast because you're getting these big chunks that fall down in it. So, little tip for you there. Yeah, Lynn already says guilty. Like, seriously, everyone does it too. You're not alone, but it's something that you want to break. There's a reason I'm not a messy painter, and that is a huge one of them. Hold on. My mom remembered when she dialed. Sorry about that. She's funny. Okay, so let's go back to the easel. And now I'm going to reload the brush. We've got our yellow paint, nice and bold. All this bright yellow down at the bottom, well, it doesn't really show on the camera, but that will be covered with the cactus and the landmass, so I'm not worried about that. This red is actually not that saturated, so it's a good thing I planned on doing, or that I decided to go ahead and do the 2 layers. Otherwise, that would be a dull end painting. And I want really bold here. I want to really capture that desert look. So I'm going to blend those. And see, I don't know if you can see on this, there's a few slight streaks. Good. That just looks like hints of cloud. We're good with that. Now, I'm going to switch over to my deep violet. I'm going to use a lot this time. I want this to be way more bold. I'm not using nearly as much. I need a little more water than that, but not nearly as much as I did that first layer. See, it's less scary now. We've already mapped out how far do we want the magenta to go? How far do we want everything else to go? It's already mapped out on that first layer. Simplify things. Make it easier on yourself if you can. It already looks like a nice desert sunset. I'm loving it. And again, any streaks, you just want them horizontal. Streaks are fine as long as they're horizontal. Now mine right now looks a little, exposure's having some issues. I'll adjust that in just a moment once I get this layer finished. I'm gonna take a pretty good chunk of blue. Right, actually there might be yellow. Ooh, there is. I made the mistake I told you guys not to do. I just did, so what I'm gonna do is clean that brush. Didn't realize I still had yellow on there. I'm gonna take a clean paper towel and I'm gonna wipe some of that off because I do not want yellow up here. There we go. Clean brush. I need more clean brush. My mop brush has also picked up a lot of yellow this time because I put it on so thick. So let's get that cleaned up and ready to go. This may be too wet. I may have to hunt down another mop brush. You always want several of these available because if one is drying and you need one, you don't have time to wait for this to dry. Okay, ready to go now. Chunk o' blue. I'm gonna mix a little bit of my deep violet in with that. Much better. I want to overlap this a bit into my magenta. Now I'm going to pull a little bit of black on this, but not yet. I'm going to first pull the blue all the way. I want to keep the blue wet though, so if it starts to dry, I can use my fine mist sprayer. You got too much water. Again, not on the cup. We wipe that off on the paper towel. You have so much more control that way too. This is starting to dry before I blend, so let's get a little bit of water. I may have just gotten too much water. Worst case scenario, let's say I do this and I'm like, wow, that's a messy, horrible mess. Let it dry and put another layer over it. Don't be afraid of messing anything up here. You can't. There's nothing you can do right now that actually is something unfixable, which is really true most of the time when it comes to painting. Okay, I'm going to blend this a bit, just in between here. Now this, you can't really see the magenta right now because it's so overexposed. I'll fix that in just a second. Actually, I want more magenta. I'm going to wipe some of that brush off and take a big old scoop. I'm not even adding. There we go. And now let's use the mop brush and soften that out. Much better. That doesn't even look like anything on your screen. I'll show you in a moment. What happens when the purple or the magenta and the blue mix together, you basically get, it just looks like dioxazine purple. Okay, I'm gonna wipe the paint off the brush. I'm gonna get a scoop of black. Again, this needs to be dry to work. Got a little bit of blue mixed in with it. And we're going to get some up here. I need to mist that because it is starting to dry. Let's see if that's enough. Let's go ahead and fan that out. And my goal here is to get rid of the brush strokes, not to completely blend the black into the blue. I use the term blend, but what I'm really doing is getting rid of brush strokes, not, I think I want to put one more layer of blue once this dries. Just the, actually, no. Yeah, I do. We're going to dry this. Let me clean this brush first. And the reason for that is the blue has, you can see this light area. It's not as extreme in person, but I still want to tone that down a little bit. You won't really notice it one way or another once I go over, I need more paper towels, once I go over it with the stars, but still. These colors are so rich. Actually, I probably can change it now while I'm drying this. Let me see if I can get this more accurate to what it looks like. closer. It looks so much better in person. It's the transition between the magenta is not even looking good. Like it's really odd the way that's picking up, and I'm not sure why on this one. It looks so much better in person. What I will do when I edit this lesson is go ahead and lay a photo of the actual like color. Because this looks almost black and it's not. It's purple, like purple. Huh. That is weird. These colors are just not liking this right now. Oh well. Well, it's a bit closer. Pretend this is purple because that is really purple. When it dries, I'll show you more. But while this is still there, I am going to, actually I can do it while it's still wet. Let's get that a little bit wet. I don't need to let it dry. Oh, great. Here's the other reason that you are a messy painter. Whoops. I just knocked my brush. Can you see the chunk o' paint right here? Yeah, I just knocked my brush in my palette. So that would be another reason that you might end up being a messy painter. So I want to wipe that off immediately whenever your brush falls into the palette, if you are super graceful like me. When I do that, I'm going to wipe the brush off and I'm going to wipe my hands off because I've got paint all over the place now. These are the things that you want to be in the habit of if you're complaining that you're a messy painter and that's why you can't oil paint, or for whatever reason, there's no good reason to be a messy painter. I mean, I see people post videos and they've got paint all over their pants and they've got paint all over. I can usually wear any of my clothes safely without worrying about getting too much paint on myself. I mean, I wouldn't wear long sleeves that would drag through the paint, but like this is a nice top. I'm not worried about it. But I'm going to clean up my hands. As soon as something like that happens, I'm going to clean everything up where I've made a mess. And I don't usually make this big of a mess. I'm on a roll tonight. I guess it's good for the topic of keeping your work clean, so there's that. Okay. I'm going to add a little bit more. This is starting to dry, so this may not be one of my best choices. I mean, I can fix it if it pulls up, but that already looks better. Okay, let's see if that was good enough. Let's lightly mist that. And we will fan that out. But I don't think being a messy painter, I think that's where I'm going with this. A lot of people seem to think that it's like you're born with it, like the color of your hair. You have no control. Yeah, you do. It's just a habit you develop in what you do when things start getting messy. That's much better. Okay, background done. Let me rinse that brush again. I'm really happy with the color pigmentation through here. This is so pretty in person. It's much more rich than the reference photo. I really got that like sunset, that bold color in there. Okay. Hey, look, I muted myself that time. Now is for the fun part. Now we are going to get stars on here and the galaxy, or the look of, would that be a galaxy? I don't know. Celestial stuff. I want to make sure this brush is completely cleaned so it doesn't get all crispy. Okay, next, let's flick some stars. Do I want to do the stars first, or let's do 2 layers of stars. So first layer is going to be a light blue. So they look, I've got some variation and it makes them kind of look farther away. Not necessarily scientific there, but it looks that way. What I want is a pretty stiff brush. You can use toothpaste. Don't use toothpaste. You can use toothbrushes. I've known of people that did that. I'm going to get a little bit of blue mixed in there. And some water. This has to be thinned with water or it won't flick well. And I am just going to focus more up here. I really don't want the blue down in the sunset area. I don't care when I get to just straight white, but not with a light blue. And I prefer flicking the stars over painting them, dotting them. One, dotting them, and I used to do this, it takes forever. The other thing is you have a tendency to be too uniform. This gives you a much more natural feel of things being clustered just randomly. Yeah, you don't have as much control, but they look more realistic. So there's just a lot of benefits to doing that. Okay, I'm going to dry that now. If you are following along and you do not have an airbrush, you just skip this step. Not necessary, but what I'm going to use, these are called FX Texture. I don't know if they're still on Amazon. I don't think I put a link in the description. There's a link on my website, but I don't know if that link still works. They may not make these. Let me pull them apart. Let's go with this one. Actually, I think I'm going to go with this one because it's got smaller bits. These things, if you do find them, I know when I bought mine, it was like $35, and with the current economy, who knows what they would go for now. But you feel like they're papery, and it's like, that is way overpriced for 3 pieces of a stencil. I've had them for, oh God, over 10 years. I've had these ones, these specific ones forever, and they last. Okay, I'm going to be using, I'm kind of proud of myself. I took the time to clean my airbrush today. Too bad I don't have all of the parts I need. Okay, flow improver. So the first thing I'm going to do is put 2 drops of the Vallejo flow improver in there and a little bit of white paint. This is the Golden's Titanium White. They are my favorite airbrush paint. They don't clog as much. I used to use Createx, and Createx is intended more for, you don't need a lot. I don't know if you can see in there. Like, it's way in there, and I'm running it up the side. You don't need much. But Createx, I used to use Createx airbrush paint because it was easy to get at like Michael's or Hobby Lobby, but it should be used in a 5 or larger needle. I usually use a 0.5. I use a 0.3 more often than not. So a 0.5 or paint that's good for a 0.5, it just would clog the airbrush like crazy. So I used to thin it with water, and you can certainly do that and make it work, but this is much easier. Okay. So all I'm going to do now is make a little bit of that galaxy going through there. Look how cool that looks. And I'll get a hint of some in the distance. And to do that, where I want it to be more crisp, I push it against, hold the stencil right up against the canvas. Where I want it to be softer, like here, I'm holding it at a distance. So I just get that kind of cloudy look. And I think I am going to take a little bit more. I'm going to do one more step than what I planned on, is where I'm going with that story. I'm going to take a little bit of a violet color. I'm going to have to go find one and airbrush it. Violet or blue, and I want to airbrush just to get a little bit of a glow of color into some of these. Right now, on the video, it actually looks better than in person. Well, you don't hear me say that often, but right now, this is too white. It's too kind of cloudy looking. So let me clean this up. found it. That was weirdly difficult. Okay, so I'm going to use Quadonkadonk Magenta. And same thing as before. I'm going to put a couple drops of Flow Improver, and this helps the brush not to clog. And I'm going to put a bit of my Quadonkadonk Magenta. How many of you were here long enough to know why I do that, or why I call it that? And notice I don't know if you can see, but I tested on the side here, and it's a good thing I did because a ton of white just came out, which is not the look I wanted. Okay. I'm going to just go right over this, get a nice little purpley color, and I'm going to go over some of this with the blue as well. Again, if you don't have an airbrush, you're skipping this whole stage. And that doesn't even look at all purple. It looks good in person now. That is not at all looking like it does on camera. It's weird too because this whole center looks black and it's not. It's like a violet. It's really pretty. I'll try on the other one. Usually this camera does a better job of picking up the color. Unfortunately, it's really not tonight. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take a bit of my blue, and I'm just going to go over this. And what's going to happen is, then the person, whoever gets this painting is going to be appreciative that I did this. Once I do my varnish and everything over it, this is going to have so much more depth than it would have if I left it more just flat. Like, I've got so many glazes of iridescent color now that are, not iridescent, translucent, that's the word, and paint all over my hands. See, this is what happens, and if I touch something yellow, it's all over. Okay, let me clean this out, and then we're going to put one more layer of stars, and then we can start on the pineapples. We're going to start on the pineapples. No, we're going to start on the cactus. Okay, let me see. Oh, let me throw a cleaner through here. Okay. So let me see if you can see the color any better over here. No, not, kinda. It is just not showing. It's such a pretty purple, and you don't see it at all. The violet is, it's just not showing. That's always frustrating when doing a lesson. So for those of you who are watching this stream after I recorded, I will have the finished photo of this on my website so you can see what the actual color that this really looks like, because this should not look black here. I mean, I guess it's okay if it does. It just doesn't look as pretty as it does in person. Okay, this is really, really, like, I wouldn't be unhappy hanging this on my wall, and that says, like, I would definitely not be upset if it didn't sell. Just saying. I'm a little jealous of whoever wins this one. I'm always jealous, though. That's not totally true. I always want to hang all of them, but this one I'm really like, this is going to be good. Where is my brush for flicking stars? Here's one of them. So now I need to do the same thing, but with white for my stars. So I've got to thin that with water. I didn't thin it with enough water. It's a little chunky. Okay, I love it. Next, I need to dry that, and then we get to start with the not pine cones. Now they're pine cones. They've moved from pineapples to pine cones that are really just cactus. Okay. Now for the land. I'm going to start with the landmass. I'm not going to worry about the not pine cones. The shape, if you're uncomfortable drawing these, you could take a white charcoal pencil, like the Generals. This is the one I would normally use to sketch out where you want them to go. And for me, I might dot like, okay, I want this one to come this high, but I'm just going to freehand this in because it's super easy. They so don't need to be exact to the reference photo here. So let's start with the base of the ground. And I'm keeping this in easy, that first layer, and I'll put some highlights here and there, but for the most part, going to be black. We've got a silhouette going. So I'm going to kind of dab that. This brush is super unhealthy, which actually kind of goes into what we'll be talking about later with brushes. Even though it's stiff and not healthy, I don't want to throw it away because it's still useful for this dabbing technique. And then I can just fill that bottom in. This brush is frayed, it's damaged. I could probably help it by cleaning it in a brush cleaner and conditioner and letting it soak. But it's really nice for getting that bumpy look that I wanted for like bushes and such in the background. Get some variation there. I don't want them to look, that one looked like a palm tree. Let's back that off. I mean, well, I guess you could do that for a desert scene. It's not really what I'm going for here. Okay, now I'm going to clean that brush. Now for the brush with the cactus, I called it the right word this time, that I need a healthy brush. So I'm going to rinse that guy off. And I need a brush where the bristles are in fairly good shape, so this guy will work. This one is a number 10 filbert. And what I want to do is mark, okay, I want this cactus. I'm going to mark it. He's going to be in the third, so right about here. I want him to go about that high. I'm just going to pull that down, and as we get down here, this is the trunk where everything connects. So that can be a lot thicker. Oh, I should probably dry that before I stick my finger in it. Hold on. And now we have to connect them. And this does not need to be exact at all. Close is good enough for something like this. I need to mix, I'm thinning this with a bit of water so that it flows smoothly. And then the base is like right down in here. We thicken way up. I want the tips of those to be more rounded. Some of mine are a little pointy, so just go right back over it. I just push a little bit harder so I get a thicker line with the brush. Okay. And I'm going to add highlights and such on him later. We've got some little guys in the background. Some of this I'll switch to rounds. Again, thicker at the bottom. So I'm using that same brush, I just don't put much pressure. We've got another guy over here. I'm going to make him come to maybe this spot and then come down. Then thicker at the base again. And some of these lines don't make a lot of sense until I get some of the highlights in there. That should actually connect lower. I'm going to pull the land up a little bit more on some of this. The harder you push, the thicker that line is going to be. Okay, that looks good. And now we need to get the highlights. We are almost done with this one. Lynn, I absolutely know you would. Like, I have no doubt. And I hope to kind of see that coming up soon from you. Okay, I'm going to dry that. Otherwise, I'm going to make a muddy mess. Now for the highlights on here, you've got a few things you can do. You can be a bit more artsy and outline, you know me and my teal. I'm not going to do that on this one, but you could outline edges with teal. Is it accurate? Not even a little, but it looks cool. You could outline and make like really bold with the magenta or something like that from the background. That would also work. But here I want to make kind of a muted grayish green tone. And here's another thing. You may think, oh, green, cactus green. Not at night. That's not the color you would really see. It would be a much more neutral gray, like a highlight, but not a highlight, if that makes sense. So that is what we're going to do here. First, I'm going to have to experiment a little bit to get the color I want. So I'm going to be using the same yellow. And here's the next thing. If you look at it and think, okay, I need green. Well, don't go and grab a different green. Mix it from the colors you've already used. It will make way more sense and tie the painting together and feel like it's all part of the same scene. Because the reference photo I'm using here is not the same as the reference photo. The background was one of my paintings. So this is very different. So I'm going to mix some blue, some yellow, some black, and some white. Why black and white? Because that just guaranteed me gray. And I definitely want some gray. I think this might work. It might be too bright. Let's find out when I put it on here. So I'm going to take one of those stiff brushes again. I need a different one. Hold on. That'll work. And I want to get just the hint a little bit in the ground. Yeah, this is good because it just gives me a little bit, not a lot. I don't even know if you can see that. Like, it's so not that much. And I'm going to do a little bit more with the lighter towards the very back, but I want this is going to be my darker tone. That doesn't even show up on there, does it? Well, it's there. The person who gets it in person, the person who gets it in person. I am on top of grammar tonight. The person who gets this and sees it in person will appreciate the work I just did that you guys can't see. Okay, rinse that brush. While I have that color mixed, I'm going to go ahead and use that on some of these guys. I'm taking a round brush right now. That is too much water. Dab that on the paper towel, not your water container. I'm just kind of backlighting these. Now, when you work on a canvas this smooth, you can get away with what we call dry brushing, which I normally don't recommend because it makes you look like an amateur. You can do it on this and it doesn't look like dry brushing because it's so smooth. Dry brushing is where you have hardly any paint and you just rub it across the canvas and you can get a highlight or whatever color, you know, shadow, but you're not actually blending. You're not using any good technique. It's something that crafters do and beginners. My favorite are the books that act like that's some big thing that you need to know how to do as an artist. Usually with acrylics, you kind of want to avoid it. But anyway, point is, it's easy. That's why they teach it in a lot of the books. But it looks, can you guys see the highlights? They're a bit brighter than what it looks like on my screen. The one in the back, I'm not doing that. It's only these two here that will get some of these highlights. Okay, now I want to make more of a glow so it kind of fades. The transition between here and here needs to fade. But that color worked out. I don't think you can see it. Kind of you can here. That color worked out really well for just giving the hint. Okay, next we need to make more of a color to the sky. I'm gonna add a little bit of white. I've got some yellow and I've got some red. And I'm gonna soften this transition right in here. It's too bright. I can glaze over to tone that down later. Add a little bit more color. I've got too much white in it. That's better. Less white worked better. This guy's in the distance. I'm going to go ahead and just go over all of him. It pushes him back. Makes him fade more. This is going to help add a lot of depth to this. I mean, you can go with a simple silhouette, but we're just taking it up. We're very little work, and we'll bump it up a level. And if I go too crazy, no big deal. I just come back over some of this with black. Like, it's as simple as possible to cover some of this. Push this guy back by putting that yellow over him. Same thing with this one. He got pushed back. Who's growling in their sleep? I heard that. And I can just keep building until I get it exactly how I want. So it's the back edge that I keep toning down some. Actually turn the airbrush off. We don't need that anymore. And I keep dabbing my finger in it. So this is one thing that I'm intentionally being a bit messier on. But it dries right away when I dab it like that, so it's no big deal. I'm not making a huge mess that way. Push this guy back a bit too. Okay. Now I am going to clean up that brush and I'm going to line some definite highlights on these two here with the color that I just did. So I'm going to switch to a liner brush. Oh, actually, do I have a liner brush handy? I have this small round. Yep, here's a liner brush. You'll work better. So I've got to have some white mixed in with it. Yeah, it makes it peach, but if it's too peach, when it dries, I'll just glaze whatever color I want on top. But if there's no white, if I just used red and yellow, it's just not going to show up. So that's why I've got to have white mixed in with it. But again, if it's too peach and not the pure color, we'll see what it looks like. then it's an easy enough fix. Need more water. If you don't have enough water, that will not flow smoothly or give you a thin line. A little bit more. Whoops, I was gonna have way. Can you see on this brush, see how there's a chunk at the tip? That won't work. That is just gonna make a big old mess. Wipe some of that off. Now for some of this, I could even come up with more blues around the edge instead of the gold. That would be another option. Just a lighter version of what we have in that background. I like the gold myself, but that could work. Now, even if you are a painter who is a bit more advanced and you're doing like way more detailed work, this sort of thing is fun. If you ever do art shows, you can do these and sell them for fairly inexpensive compared to your other work, considering they don't take as much time. So they're really nice, like, and they're just fun, honestly, because they are fast. You get that instant gratification. But it's a way for you to offer some pieces at different price points if you wanted that. Now you wouldn't want to do this level of detail, like the outer glow like this, on the stuff that's supposed to be in the distance, because it pulls them forward. It makes them feel too detailed. You want the stuff, the two that are closest to the viewer. Those are the only two we're going to do this on. The hint of some of these lines in here, not too many. Aw, thank you, Rob, for the super chat. This has got to keep the bad cow and the good puppy fed. Love the live streams again. Thank you so much. Oh, yay. You know what that means, boys. Did you look? Gibson's heads up. So he's like, I know that sound. You guys get a cookie? Okay, hold on. We got Cheez-Its. Want 2 Cheez-Its? You say thank you to Rob. You have to back up. Back up. There you go. Say thank you. Good job. That's as close to talking as you're going to get a greyhound to do. Okay, they backed up that. Wow, that was some serious drool, Gibson. There you go. It's all gone. Okay, finish nomming. Good boys. Now go lay down. Yeah, I know, you're still drooling. Go lay down. Wait, lay down. Go on, bad cow. Oh, we're switching beds now. Was that good? Well, thank you again, Rob. I really want to do a thing, maybe with a new computer, where there's like noise. Well, you don't want to freak out the bad cow. Everything scares him. But I thought it'd be fun to like have a whole cookie party. Crap, I said the word. Hopefully no one noticed. Did anyone notice? No, they're ignoring me. Okay, good. So a little bit more here on some of these highlights. We're just about done. Oops, that line was way too thick, so I'm just going to wipe that. Need to reload the brush. toning it down by sticking my finger in it. I wish this looked as good on camera as it does in person, because it's like the purples in here are so pretty. It is so weird that they're just showing up blue and black. That is so odd. Like, it's got a lot of purple in it. I'm going to push this guy back even a bit more. And by pushing these back, just look at what a difference it makes to the depth of the piece. And it's such a simple thing. I'm just going right over what's already there. And it makes them look so much farther away. I'm just giving the hint of lines. We're not going so detailed on this that we're doing all the lines that's on the reference photo. Although I think sometime I might want to do like the really detailed cactus with flowers and such. But for today, for this one, we're keeping it really simple. That's it. And then I want to sign it. And so I want to decide, do I like the signature better here? Or do I like it over here? Definitely over here, because this is so little in this section. I think I'm just going to sign it with the same orangey color. You want to be able to see the signature, but you don't want to like overly focus on the signature. And you also want to keep in mind, when this gets framed, the frame will just a little bit go over the edge here. So I want to make sure my signature is up, so it doesn't get cut off. Now, if that stands out too much, and I think it does, that's more like, hi, I'm in your face, than I would like it to be. Then I'm going to dry this and just lightly glaze another color right over it to tone it down. The bid for this one is still at $55, so you guys have a chance to get an original painting for really inexpensive, which is fun. And now what I'm going to do is mix my orange, just red and yellow. And then you just wipe that right over and tint the color. Push that back. I can even take that color. Ooh, yes, that looks good too. A little bit more of a glow. Oh, look how pretty that is. Notice that I'm not worried if I go over the cactus, and I'm not like trying to stay inside the lines. You really don't need to. And then I will varnish this with a high gloss varnish before I ship it. Whoever bought the one from last week, the Northern Lights, I forget who it was, can't think of it off the top of my head. That one is varnished. I'm shipping it tomorrow, so that should be to you soon. Actually, the one from the last 2 weeks. I was planning on getting them out sooner, and then we had the ice storm, and I was not going to drop anything off. So I didn't get, like, it just made my brain shut down on the whole, hey, you should still varnish this now. So I can actually varnish it till Saturday, and the last varnish on Sunday, I think. Or maybe it was Friday and Saturday. Either way, I wanted to let them all set a little bit longer to make sure nothing got messed up in shipping. So that's why you haven't gotten yours yet. Because I'm irresponsible, is the moral of that story. They're coming. Like, this is, I'm kind of surprised with how much I like how this one came. I mean, I knew I was going to like it because I love the concept, and I mean, I'd painted that background before, but man, the way the olive green, and I wish I will post the photo. Actually, what I'll do on the one that I edit, I'm going to put it in the bottom corner where the low cost lessons. I'll probably put the reference photo there so people can watch or see it a little bit better. But that is it. That is the finished painting. You can kind of see some of the detailing, the color shifts in there. And then this whole thing, it actually fades. This is more of a red. This goes up to magenta and purple all the way up into this. The purplish tone is all through here. It doesn't hit the blue and then the dark blue up here. This is just not showing well for some reason. But it is, I'm really like, sometimes I'm just impressed with myself. This is going to be one of them. I am happy with this. So that is the finished painting. Now we have a few things to go that I wanted to talk about, some art topics, and then I've got, we'll go over all of your questions so you can keep those coming in and we'll go over that. Let's see. Actually, before that, the boys have a message. My light just went out for some reason. That was weird.
Without treats, these puppies are so sad. Your Patreon pledge of only $4 or more gives them cookies of happiness. Act now and the bad cow gets a treat too. Oh, and you also get over 300 art lessons and a new one every single week, plus other rewards. Sign up at patreon.com/Lachri.
Okay, we are back. So the first thing that I want to go over is, what do you do when somebody, for some reason, there's something about art where people think that you love painting, you love drawing, so you should just give them your work or give it at a discount, give it at a very low cost. And I don't know what specifically it is about painting and drawing that makes people think you should just do it for the love of doing it. I mean, that doesn't pay my bills. I can love doing something all I want, and if I can't get money out of it, I can't pay my bills. So what do you do when people have that attitude? And it's going to happen. If it hasn't happened to you yet, it will. And it's always the most awkward thing when it's usually someone you know or word of mouth or whatever. And I actually had one woman contact me once. She seemed to think she was like just doing me this great honor by her wanting my work on the wall. She expected to pay poster prices for a 36 by 24 inch super detailed, would have taken me like a month to do. She thought, oh yeah, like $50. It happens. And one, don't be insulted by it. Like, as much as possible, try not to be insulted by somebody doing that. It's really, really common with art. And you have a good amount of people who genuinely believe if you love it, you'll do it and give it away. And I don't know why. I mean, should doctors work for free too if they love healing people, and then everything should be for free? You don't need to pay your bills. Who cares if you have running water today? You know, like, it's just kind of a weird thing. So don't take it personal. It happens to us all. It's not an indication that your work isn't good or anything like that. It happens to everybody. So what do you do when somebody asks for something for free? With the free one, I have absolutely no free work that's requested. That's not to say I don't do free work for people or give somebody something, but it's because I chose to, not because they asked. The second they ask, out the window, not happening, like, at all. For me, and I think we all have a moment that, like, a story time of what happened that got you to that point. For me, I was working at an animal hospital while building up my business, and there was a girl who worked there who was looking at one of my paintings of a manatee, she was looking at the one with the humpback whale, and it was swimming away, and she really liked it, and she really wanted to get one, wanted to know how much I would charge her. And I was a newer artist, and it's always weird coming up with the cost of paintings for somebody when you're new. But she wanted to know how much I would charge her. And I was like, no, I'm not going to charge you. I'll do one for you for free. That's fine. Then she's like, oh, okay. And she starts talking about the manatee she wants in it. So I'm thinking it's all the same painting. No, it was the humpback whale. Now she wants one that has a manatee in it. And I didn't realize what she had done until she also informed me, well, I can't get a separate one, the manatee, for my mom without getting a separate one for my dad. So she suckered me into painting a bald eagle for him too. And I felt so awkward. I was new, and I just felt awkward saying, what? No. She bought me a single tube of Liquitex Basic paint to cover the cost. Not kidding you. So that was my moment. And she's not a bad person. This is a very common thing to have happen, and people will definitely take advantage. She thinks she's doing me a great favor because she's buying me a tube of paint. Yeah, that $5, super helpful. Thanks. This is normal. Don't let it discourage you. Don't let it make you feel like yours isn't good enough. It is. It just happens. So you want to put that line in the sand early on. What do I do instead? I don't want to make the person feel awkward if I don't have to. I don't want to feel awkward for being like, no, I can't give you that for free. And sometimes people will try to guilt you into it. Well, I can't afford it, and I really want a painting over my couch. Okay, it's a luxury item. I'm not withholding food or medicine or anything from you. This is not like I have to pay bills too. I have my own expenses. So what I do instead of just giving in or being nasty about it is just make like you're in on the joke with them. When they ask, oh yeah, I want such and such over my couch. Oh my gosh, yeah, haha. You somehow turn that into almost a joke that you're both in on. They're not going to feel as awkward. I mean, they'll kind of be like, oh, I was serious. But I'm going to play it off too because now I feel awkward, which they should. They're the ones, if anyone needs to be feeling awkward in this situation, it's them. But if you kind of turn it into a joke like, oh, them asking, that was funny. That's a good one. You can do it and be polite and not make things super, because it's usually your friends or acquaintances. It's not a stranger off the street that's going to do it to you. It's someone that you kind of want to keep in contact with. So we don't want to make them feel bad. That is what I do in the case of somebody asking for free work. And like I said, I have a very strict personal. I do not do anything for free unless I offer. And I do free work for people because I wanted to, never because they asked. Now, the other thing you're going to have are the people who are like, well, how much is that? Oh my God, that's too expensive. Most artists don't charge near enough for their work. Now, okay, to be fair, you do occasionally get the artist who's a bit delusional and wants $10,000 for a drawing they did of their own dog. No one wants your dog on their wall. Like, that's not practical. So you have a handful of artists that do that. But the vast majority of artists do not charge enough. Think about this. Let's say you're trying to make a living off your art. Heck, even just buying the materials. This economy, not fun to buy material, not fun to buy anything on. Hi, eggs. So what you want to do, just to kind of factor this in, is how much do you need to make per month to pay your bills, to pay the electric, to pay everything? How much do you need to make a month? How many paintings at whatever given price you're charging would you need to make? You're not going to be able to pay your bills selling paintings for $50 each. You just can't. I mean, unless you're spending 10 minutes on each painting and you're just pumping on that, people are paying for them like their eggs. But that's not practical. It is just not practical for you to be selling at such a low amount. And you're always going to have people wanting that discount. You're always going to have people wanting to pay less. Do not feel guilty. And I don't know why we all do. I do too. We always feel guilty when somebody's like, well, how much do you charge for this? And I'm like, yeah, that's $1,200 or that's $500. That's a big piece. That's like a 1 month long project, 6 weeks long. I'm not selling that for $200. Can you imagine working for 6 weeks and making $200? No, people still kind of expect that. Those people can buy prints. If that's their budget, they can buy a nice print. I can make a giclée. They can get that for $200, nice size. That's not a problem. But for an original piece, don't let people make you feel bad about your price, about what you charge, about what you need to make to survive, what you need to make to live. It's just not realistic. I've actually had people too say, well, you should work another job, like work at an animal hospital or McDonald's or wherever, and then you can give your work away. Why? It's weird how greedy people are wanting our stuff but not wanting to pay for it. It will happen sooner or later. You're going to experience this. So what do you do in those cases? Have a website, not mine that went down earlier. That was fun times. But have a website with all your prices. So let's say you take commissions. Somebody's like, well, how much would you charge to paint my dog? Oh, here's the link. And you have it broken up. This is how much it would cost for this size in charcoal. This is how much it would cost for that size in oil paint. You have everything broken down. It makes it very easy for them to go, look, I never verbally tell someone the price. Ever. I always send them to the link. That way they can look at it. If it's out of their budget, there's no awkwardness between the two. They don't have to feel bad going, I don't want to tell her I'm broke. That feels bad on them. Just take all the awkwardness out as much as possible, and having a website with set prices really helps. And then if you've got original paintings, same thing. Have those original paintings up on your site where they can see how much they are. They can browse on their own without you standing over. When you talk in person, it's almost like somebody when you're shopping and the person working there standing over your shoulder watching you. And it's like, dude, back off. So this gives a much more comfortable experience for both parties. They don't have to feel awkward saying, oh yeah, that's out of my price range. And you don't have to feel awkward like going through any of that. Just have the website with all of your prices written down. It makes things way easier. And keep in mind, if you've been selling work at a certain price, if you're not selling it, okay, no one's buying it that price, you might want to consider maybe you do need to lower it. But if you've been selling your work, let's say you sell that for like this cactus, on average selling for $500. I'm not going to lower the price because somebody said it was too much. If I can sell it for that much, and coming up with the price of your work largely is to do with the name you've built for yourself and how you market. It's not even a matter of if you're good or not. Like it doesn't, the price has a lot more to do with your marketing skills and how you've marketed yourself than the work itself. So if somebody is saying they can't do that, again, don't lower the price. If that's what they've been going for. That's not a good practice anyway, because the people who paid full price aren't going to be real happy that other people are able to get it for less. Don't feel like you need to set a price based on what the person can afford. That's also kind of shady. The person who paid, you're devaluing the work, and the person who paid full price is like, hey, wait a minute. No one likes that. That's not a name you want to build for yourself. So just set your price. That's what it is. Send them to your site. Make it easy on yourself. So the next thing I wanted to talk about, problems in paintings. You know there's a problem. You can tell something's wrong in a painting. You just can't figure out, like, what do I do? What do I change? How do I fix this? I don't know what's wrong. I just know I don't like it. Huge, huge tip. Super simple. Well, obviously, we know back away, look at it across. Words are really hard. Back away, look at it from across the room, look at it at a distance, but even more, flip it upside down. When you flip your art upside down, you're no longer looking at a painting of a flamingo or whatever it was. You're looking at general shapes. This is going to help you to judge the balance of your work better. Is something just too bright where you don't want focus to be? Let's say I painted a flamingo and the foot is like, whoa, that's bright. I look at it from a distance and that's the first thing I see. Okay, I need to tone that foot down. You don't always notice it when it's up the right side up because you look at this flamingo and you're like, yeah, it's a flamingo, looks fine. I mean, I know I don't love it, but I think it's okay. Flip it upside down, look at it at a distance, or take a photo and look at it on a small screen. That will work too, but again, upside down. You will notice things you did not notice before. It makes it so much easier to find the balance to, do you need to make something lighter, darker, soften it, make it more harsh, make more detail. It really makes it easy for you to see where the natural view, like if somebody else came and looked at that painting, where is their focus going to be? One of the things that often happens, we've been sitting there, I've been painting a flamingo for days. I looked at it at a distance and I'm like, yeah, it looks how it's supposed to. When you flip it upside down, you're not looking at a flamingo anymore. You just tricked your brain into seeing what a viewer first walking in the room, seeing it for the first time, where their attention is going to land. You want it to land on the head. You know that, so that's where your eye is going. But if you've been looking at it, it kind of deceives yourself. You're not really looking at it clearly. So flip it over, look at it at a distance, that'll help. Now, what about accuracy? Let's say you know that the accuracy isn't quite there. You've been working on a portrait, the face is just not quite right. Take a photo of it, put it into Photoshop or whatever photo editor you're using, flip it upside down, and the reference photo right next to it, same size, upside down, side by side. Oh my gosh, the things you will notice. And now that happens even if, you're gonna notice a lot of stuff, even if you're not putting it into Photoshop, but you put them in Photoshop side by side. Holy crap, you are going to notice everything. It's pretty much as good as having me stand over your shoulder and point out what needs to be adjusted. You're gonna notice it on your own because you're looking at the shapes and shadows. You're not looking at, let's say again, a portrait. You're not looking at it as that person. You're looking at what's different between the two, and they are side by side. Your work will instantly be, it'll be so much easier for you to get things that much more accurate. So really cool. And let's see, the last tip I had talked about was not ruining your brushes. Stop ruining them. I have this one I was using earlier. I don't know if you can see how frayed this is. Hold on, my camera is all weird. But you can kind of, maybe not. I don't know if you can. It's stiff, it's frayed, it's damaged, it's old. I've probably had this brush for over 10 years. I didn't do a good job cleaning it. That does not mean you need to soak it. We have this thing that if something is dirty, we need to soak it. Those dishes that have been in your sink for 2 weeks, they don't need to soak that long. Sorry to break that to some of you guys. But your brushes, same thing. Soaking them isn't what's going to fix it. What that will do is actually damage it. It will make the bristles, I don't know if you can see on that at all. Probably not. Maybe if I put it over here. Can you see how frayed these bristles are starting to get? Like, I don't know if that's not going to focus. That doesn't even look that frayed. Point is, here's one that's more extreme. They start to fray, not like that. It actually makes them more like a fluff ball. The ends of the bristles start just getting poofy. I'm trying to find one that's, none of these are great examples. But the bristles start to get kind of poofy and frayed. Even 30 seconds, 1 minute, sitting upside down. You've been painting, you stick that in the jar, that brush, within a minute is damaged. I know, I've tested this, unfortunately, when someone did it to me and I was only away from my easel for about a minute. The bristles from resting while wet makes them more vulnerable. At any point, you never want, even in just normal storage, you never want to store your brushes aiming down like that, ever. But when they're wet, they're that much more vulnerable. You're making it worse. So when you want to, let's say you've got a brush that's dirty. Whenever you're cleaning your brushes, you always want to first, you've got paint on it, wipe as much off, just pull that paint off on your paper towel first. Then take this brush, go ahead and rinse that in the water, get that as clean as you can. If that is not clean enough, or let's say you forgot and it really just had started to dry, use a brush cleaner. The Masters is my favorite. That one, or pink soap's okay. I definitely prefer the Masters. It's like this little round jar thing, and you lather the brush. Use warm water, just lather it up. That will get so much more pigment out of the brush, your brushes, and it conditions them. They will last so much longer. Now, I don't do it every time. I do it like some of these are really getting stiff. I can restore a lot of them by cleaning them, and then I can even, now that you can let set, because you just, in that case, you would lather them up, and then while it's still lathered up, form the bristles so they're all healthy and back into the shape you want them in. Let them dry like that. Don't let them dry frayed. When you clean that off, it will pull a lot of that paint out. You can do this for oils or acrylics. It can restore brushes to a really good condition. Soaking them, not helping. Even brushes that are soaked, because I've worked one of those places where people would paint while they drank wine. I taught one of those classes for a while. Those are fun to teach, by the way. But when we would always have the people, because they would never rinse the brush properly, so they would leave them in the brush or in the holder. I don't even think, like, it doesn't soak the paint off. All we were accomplishing is making sure it didn't dry out, but it didn't soak or remove the paint. We still, at the end of the class, the teachers would have to go and wash all of those correctly. Like, soaking them in water, in a container of water, that's not getting paint out any better than just wiping them and rinsing them and putting them to the side until you can clean them with soap. The soap is the thing that's going to make the difference, not soaking in the container, the jar. Also, go do your dishes. That's it for that one. Okay, now we've got some questions from you guys, so let's see what we've got. Ooh, new bid for the painting. So he's up to $85. Wow. You guys have good taste. It's really pretty. I cannot wait for whoever gets this to see it in person. It is just, the difference is really huge. It is so much better in person. Okay, so let me get Discord open and go through your questions. First question, Violet Sky said, Lisa, did you have any damage from last week's storm? Also, how about a frog cam? That would be fun. So as far, oh, hold on. What is happening? Oh, that's what happened. Okay, sorry about that. No, that's weird. It was showing the ad again for some reason, but it's because this is... What are you doing? Anyway, I think I've got it fixed. That was really weird. Anyway, no, I don't think there's been any damage. I don't know with my sprinkler system yet because I haven't turned it off. We've been raining, or on. It's been raining, but I don't know yet. That's the only thing that I'm concerned with, but like our pipes and everything like that, we're all fine. So the major stuff, we're good. And a frog cam, that would be cute, but I don't even think you'd see them. It would have to stretch really far, and I can't get the wires, like they're actually on these webcams are not that long. The longest one I have is 6 foot. 2 of my good ones are 5. It makes things challenging. So I am going to be adding a camera though. When I get the PC and I've got more space in here, I'm going to add a camera that's over the palette all the time. So when I'm painting, I can switch and show you guys that too. So I'm really looking forward to that. But right now, unfortunately, it will cause everything to crash. I can't add more cameras. So that is coming. Let's see. We've got... Oops, that's not what I'm looking for. Okay. Next. Lourdes said, how to get the most layers in mediums like charcoal and hard pastel? Have you tried sanded paper for either of these mediums? I have not, and I need to, because I've got that awesome sanded paper from Brush and Pencil, which is my favorite. It's actually the only sanded paper I use or would recommend. The other ones, not that archival. As it turns out, they claim, so side rant, the other papers, so Fisher 400, it's not as bad, but UArt is really bad. The back is not acid-free. They're basically using sandpaper from a hardware store and they remarketed it, is what I've been told from other people who, let's say it was information passed down by, who knows if it's true or not, but I believe it because testing that I've known have been done. And you've seen me do this before on the other sanded paper where I use the acid-free pen to check the back. Yeah, the back is not acid-free. That over the years will soak through and affect the front of the paper. I wouldn't trust it in my work, and it sucks because I was coming up with the live sale items. I have some really good stuff done on Fisher 400 and one on UArt. I'll use UArt once because it was crappy anyways. Not a good paper. Yeah, no, I don't want to say that. I got a bad batch. So maybe they did replace it, but I won't use it, so it doesn't matter. It's scratch paper for me now. But the backs of them, oh, and it's stored front to back in the pack when you get them. So the back of the previous sheet is touching the other sheet. You've constantly got a non-acid-free surface against that while they're being stored. So when I tested, I had them stored together like it came in the package, and I tested the front of a page. It was now no longer acid-free. It was testing showing there was acid in it. And it's just like, wow, these people are, I don't know. My opinion is they are quite shady. I would not recommend UArt. And people have brought this up and they made a post talking about how those of us complaining said, we just don't know what we're talking about. Well, science says otherwise. I mean, okay, you just sound like a greedy person to me. Personal opinion. Whatever. So anyway, the only sanded paper I use is the Brush and Pencil, which is awesome, and I need to try that. That is a really good idea because I want to do a charcoal piece coming up soon that's much more detailed just to show you guys, like, because I love the loose sketch with charcoal, but I want to show you guys some of the other stuff it can do. So I may do that. That's a good idea. But I need to test other papers because I haven't worked in charcoal besides on cans and Me-Tens in years. I used to all the time, but I did it on paper that was too smooth and it was very hard to build up the layers that you want. I kind of want to try Stonehenge because I don't know, that one and I've got a lot of it here, so I think I'm going to try that. Anyway. So yeah, to get the most layers, no, you're right. The sanded paper would probably get you more layers than anything else. Ellen said, so for a painting this size, how many mop brushes would you keep on hand? 3, because I had 2 and 2 wasn't quite enough. So 3, you would probably be good. But I usually have anywhere between 5 and 10 always available I've got more for oil painting because oil painting, you can't dry it. Like once if it gets wet enough, you have to dry it. It's not going to be ready to go for days, or if you have to wash it, I mean. So oil painting, I'm going to put a little bit, like I'm going to have more. I use a different mop brush for that. But with these, yeah, I would say 5 to 10 is my normal of what I have in the studio, floating around somewhere, but 3 minimum. Art of Raven D said, I'm a messy painter whenever I paint. I have also itched my nostril without realizing paint on my finger. Not fun. Yeah, I do that with charcoal. So I'm always like, when I'm live streaming, checking, like, did I scratch my nose with charcoal on my hands? Let's see. Is that Wisu? I don't know. I'm butchering your name and I apologize. Said, I'm guilty of being messy in acrylic paint. I somehow managed to paint myself on my forearm, and I didn't realize there's dried paint there. Mitchie Fine Art said, I make little tape handle tabby things for my art boards so I have a place to grab. That's actually a really good idea. Yeah, you can tape the stuff down. You could also use double-sided sticky tape on the back, but sometimes the sticky tape on the paint boards will pull the paper off the paint board, and if I'm selling it, that's kind of a tacky way to give something. Not that the back matters that much, but yeah, that's why I haven't done that. But a double-sided, something that's not as tacky, is a good idea. Let's see. nope, 3698 says, if one does not have that particular type of stencil and an airbrush, what would you recommend as a substitute? That specific stencil is by far the best, but you could sit there and hand paint all of those in. You could take, let me show you, wrong thing. You could take a brush, let's say one like this, and draw, see where I've got that? You can paint that in by hand with your white paint, and then take another clean brush and just lightly smudge out anywhere where it needs to be softer. So you can get a similar look. The problem is, in my case, you saw how quick that went. If you want to do this without an airbrush, you're looking at hours of work versus what, 4 minutes? So that's kind of the trade-off there. Is it really, like, it would look good enough with just stars. I don't think I would want to put hours into that. Maybe it's just me because I know how fast it should be with an airbrush. So there's that. Sonic the Hedgehog says, question, advice. My art teacher called my style of art a craft and failed me. I pour my heart and soul into my work. How do I handle harsh criticism? So, I'd have to see the work to say, but usually when an art and I don't like when art teachers word it that way, because I have seen art teachers, this is just a kind of a side rant, I have seen art teachers discourage people who could have been amazing because the art teacher didn't want to get off their butt and show them what they wanted to see differently. I've worked with students who were failing their art class and they were phenomenal artists. They just needed a little guidance. Isn't that the point of the art teacher? Wasn't the point that they were supposed to guide that student? But especially high schools and junior highs, I have come across so many nasty, horrible teachers that just sat on their butt behind the desk and were telling people, okay, I want you to draw this in charcoal, and then failed them for not shading it. Didn't bother to teach them how to shade. Didn't bother to tell them she wanted it shaded. There was one woman who was just horrible. That's not even a teacher. That's a woman who's sitting in the classroom being bitter. And it drives me crazy because I have seen good artists, really. I was one of them, actually. Talking about the lady that was so nasty. She did that to me. That was my story. My first ever art class in school, freshman year in high school, my only class where I should have had a teacher showing me something. She gave us charcoal, wanted us to draw something, so I drew the outline of a horse's head. Did as good, and I was good at drawing horses, so the outline was fine. And she failed me, and I didn't know why. Other students in the classroom had to help me and tell me that she wanted to see shading. You know what she didn't tell you? To shade anything. How would I have known that? And I'm a professional artist. I currently put to shame anything that old hag could have done. She was not good. She was bitter. She was mean. She was discouraging. There was another time, kind of off topic, sort of. I asked her if I wanted to get involved. This is years later, so I'd had a lot of practice. I was doing much better. I wanted to know if she could help me get my stuff in the LA County Fair. I lived in Claremont, California. I grew up really close to where the LA County Fair is in Pomona, so that was very common for students to do. She told me it's almost impossible to do and walked off. Wouldn't help. Horrible woman. And I to this day, cannot stand people like that because I have seen them discourage artists to where artists didn't pursue it further. Luckily, I'm stubborn as a mule. Like I'm stubborn as a bad cow over there. That's right. Bad cow. See? Look how stubborn he is. Watch. Bad cow, sit. See? Stubborn cow. He can't sit because he's a greyhound. But anyway, moving on. When a teacher discourages somebody, I'm not even saying she was wrong. Should I have been failed? Yeah, sure. I didn't shade it. She wanted it. She should have told me what she wanted. She should have shown me how to do it. Even after she failed me, she didn't tell me why. I had no clue. I got a C in that class total. And that was after the other student. There was a kid, Jeremy. I think he was a senior or junior. He was older than me. And he felt bad for me and was kind of guiding me and teaching me because she couldn't get off her butt and do it herself. I cannot stand teachers like that. And if a teacher tells you something about your work and doesn't show you how to fix it, doesn't tell you why she's calling it a craft, screw her. Don't listen to her. You find somebody who can help you. Now, that's not to say your work doesn't look like a craft. It might be. My horse that I put all my heart and soul into wasn't shading. It was just an outline. I didn't even know shading was a thing. I was so grateful that Jeremy kid showed me how to do it because I'm still to this day doing that, and I love it. But she tore me apart without any help, without any guidance. At no point. It's just crazy to me. And I had another student, this is years and years later, I'm teaching art myself. And it's funny because I never wanted to go into teaching art in high school because of that woman. It was like, yeah, that's not a person. If I'm going to teach, I'm teaching my own classes. If that's how they teach, yeah, I'm out. But thank God I didn't because don't need to go in financial debt for school for teaching, teach my own classes. Anyway, moving on. So I'm teaching this one student. Her mom brought her to me because she was failing her art class. It took me no time to get this kid on track, and she was awesome. The thing that really made me mad is when I moved out of California, she was one of my last students still. I mean, I'd been with her for years. That teacher, I heard from her mom years later. I went back to visit. I happened to see her in and out. So we were talking, and she said, yeah, that I don't want to use her name, but that student no longer paints because the teacher discouraged her after I left. She was amazing. She could have been amazing. And the teacher tore her down and didn't help. She brought in a piece one time. She was trying to draw. She had an old English bulldog, and she was drawing it. And the teacher didn't like what she had drawn. And so she erased its legs and feet and drew it herself. So the student brings me the work, and I looked at that, and I'm like, wait, she thinks that looks good? It was horrible. What the teacher fixed was horrible. And one of the things I see quite often with high school art teachers is they just do abstract. Now, I'm not bashing abstract. I'm just saying it doesn't take the same skill set as us who do realism. Very different skill set. One requires years and years and years of honing your skills. One is how you feel more, I guess. I don't know. It doesn't take that much to learn abstract. Sorry, abstract artists. I actually like a lot of abstract work, but let's be realistic. The technique, it takes somebody to do realism years longer than it would take for someone to do abstract. So this abstract woman is picking apart and trying to draw and tell her how to fix it, but she doesn't know how to draw herself. That's another thing that happens often. So your teacher, she may be right. You may be painting in a craft style work. Like my horse was not right. She was right to give me an F. She was wrong to have not explained what she wanted in the first place and not tell me how to fix it after. That's where my problem is. So again, your work, I want you to look at it. Are you painting to where you're doing a spongy thing? Let me show you. Is this now it's kind of funny because this is actually what I did here, but is your whole painting style stabbing the canvas like this? Not brushstroke, but stab. If you are stabbing a lot, that is something that I see a lot, which is a very crafter type, very beginning type artist, almost toll painting, and that's why I call it a craft art. So she might be right. She should show you what she wants. She should be teaching you. And I'm sorry that you're having that experience. I'm not going to sit here and blow smoke up your bum and tell you you're amazing already. You probably do need to improve. We all need to improve always. I want to improve. We all should always want to improve. She should have helped you, not just torn you apart. You can't tear someone apart without telling them how to fix it, without encouraging them. She's not a good teacher for any of that. And so I would not take too much of what she says to heart. If she's willing to teach you, learn like a sponge. Take up whatever you can. But if she's only tearing you apart without helping, just don't take her too seriously. Don't be too discouraged. But do look into how can you improve. Because especially if you're in high school. We all needed to improve in high school. So I have no doubt there's something to what she said. My problem is in how she said it and that she didn't help you or guide you into what she wanted to see instead. That was a long rant, but it's something that I'm super passionate about. It makes me so mad when someone discourages another artist, and especially somebody who calls himself a teacher. That's not a teacher. That's somebody who's lazy, who is sucking government checks for her job as a teacher. That's not a teacher. Okay, sorry for the long rant. Let's see. Oh my gosh, another bid for the painting. So you, Kind Painting, are up to $95. I knew you were going to be a good one. Good job, Cactus, Pineapple, Pine Cones. Okay, next question. Let's see if I can stop. I'm going to want to keep going back and ranting on that because it's something I'm so passionate about. Don't discourage. How many amazing artists have not become amazing artists because of a crap high school teacher? No, you're just somebody who takes checks from the government. You aren't a teacher. There are good teachers. I don't want to make it sound like there aren't. I have experienced good art teachers. There was one I got into an AP See, I knew I was going to go back to it, but I got into an AP studio art class. He didn't teach us. He told us what he wanted. But when we didn't do it right, he told us why it wasn't right. That was the thing. I got so much out of, he would just give us, here's the theme. You're going to do colored pencils and I want transparency. I didn't want to draw glass jars like everyone else. I went and drew transparent tigers because that's how my brain works. And he, if something wasn't right, he would go back and work on it more. He didn't just fail you, go back and work on it more. That's a teacher. That's somebody who's good at telling you what he wants to see and what you can improve on. Anyway, next. That is not going to be a fun clip for me to edit down because I ranted for way too long. Where was I? Okay, Sonic also asked, what tubes do you mix with green? Phthalo blue and lemon yellow. That would work. Any blue, any yellow, you're going to get green. Heck, yellow and black, sometimes you'll get green, kind of like an olivey green. In my case, I was today using primary blue and primary yellow just because it happens to be what I grabbed. Let's see. Rob said, we should have Matt buy a comic book super chat. Oh, he'd love that. I wanted to ask, did you get into the ISOM comic books, the new ones that Eric July's comics? Matt is loving that one. Anyway, he got all of the covers. Everyone else is like, what? But Matt said it's really good. Oh, let's see. I got him t-shirts and a hat for Christmas of the ISOM comics. He's over here in in McKinney, like really close to me, the guy who makes those, which is cool. Let's see. Elaine said, when you wash a dirty, stiff brush with the soap, do you shape the brush and let it dry out with the soap on it to form the bristles and then rinse? Yes, you can leave that soap on there for days. I've left it for weeks or months. I've got some that's probably still on there from 2 years ago. I just haven't gotten to rinsing. You can leave it on pretty permanently, however long you want, and then rinse it whenever. But yeah, and when you let it soak and dry, that's the Master's Brush Cleaner. The pink soap should do the same. That really, really can save a brush, like really save a brush. So I will usually lather it up, rinse that out as good as possible. Then if it's still not getting clean enough, lather it up and just stick it to the side and let it dry. But yeah, reform those bristles. Marty said, how would you do the background of the cactus painting without a spray gun? So I would leave this out. I should actually pull that back up. This here, the galaxy, that whole thing, I would just leave that out and do the stars, maybe more stars. The other thing, let's say you had a stencil and you want the stars grouped like that. You can tape a stencil down and then splatter stars so the stars are grouped up within that shape. You've got a few options there on getting that sort of look, but it's like I mentioned earlier. Whew, a chair just fell that made a lot of noise and scared the crap out of me and the dogs. Look, they're like, what just happened? We didn't do it. Yeah, I know, boys, that wasn't your fault. That was just a little foldy chair fell. Okay, anyway. My heart is going now. So yeah, you can also, like I had mentioned earlier, just put the white and then kind of smudge it out a little bit and form those shapes, but it will take a long time. Patrick says, are General's charcoal pencils as good as Derwent? I can't find Derwent white charcoal pencils in bulk, only one in each set. I've not used the Derwent, which is ridiculous because I love Derwent, but I just haven't used them, so I haven't tried. And I think that I've got a kit here that I need to. I use General's. They're just easy to get and they're available at like every store, and I just get the whites. I can get those ones in the pack. I have no idea on the Derwent. I am definitely going to buy some and I'll do a comparison video of the two and see if I notice any difference. I'm not that picky though. When I have tried different brands of charcoal, I've never noticed a huge difference. So General's is just easy to get. Everyone has it. So that's why I've gone that route and I've always loved them. But I've never, when I have tried it, found that big of a difference. Okay, let's see. Dolphin Soul said, how do you properly clean the mop brushes? Oh, good question. So mop brushes, you are only going to tip, let's see, it might be easier over here. You're only going to dip the tip, just the tip, that's it. That is the only part that gets rinsed in water. And then, because you're going to, I sound like Archer right now. You're going to, that's kind of inappropriate. You're going to take your paper towel and you're going to run that in circles until that comes clean, both clean, because sometimes some of the paint will still be on it, and dry. You want to do that until that is totally dry, so it's ready to go as soon as you're ready for it. But the reason that I don't, and you would do the soap the same way. Lather it up in soap. I don't care if the whole thing gets wet when I'm using the soap because I'm not going to be using it again that night. But lather it up in soap. That's what I need to do with this one because the bristles are like a little stiff. I've not dried. I used it too many times without cleaning it properly. So if I lather this up, it's going to clean that right up. But when I'm doing it in circles like this is a big deal on helping to get that both dry and clean. Okay, Lourdes said, Thanks for the tips about sanded paper. Do you have the name of the Stonehenge you want to try out for charcoal? It's just the Stonehenge. I always think Spunhenge. I don't know those of you who are familiar with artist Alan Willett, who does birds. He's phenomenal. But he hates Stonehenge. He calls it Spongehenge. And so no. Anyway, that's what my mind just went to. But it's just whatever the individual sheets were. I've got some tan. I've got some white. So that's probably what I'm going to give it a try. It's not that dissimilar to... Is that a word, dissimilar? I may be using that improperly. It's not that different than, we'll go basic words. It's not that different than using a hot press, maybe a little bit more tooth in a hot press watercolor. It's softer. So for some reason, my brain's like, oh, that's going to stick better than the Canson Me-10s. But I could also use Canson Me-10s on the smooth side and get a smoother look. There's a lot of tricks to make like finer, cleaner detail with charcoal, like using water. So I am going to do something that's really realistic versus the sketchy look I typically enjoy sometime in the near future to show you guys. And I'm not sure yet what paper I want to go with. Nick said, can you use the hairdryer to dry the mop brush after cleaning? You can. It actually doesn't work that well. I've tried that. I have actually more often than not. It's always students. Inevitably, every student has to try it. It takes too long to dry. It's like drying my hair naturally. There's just too much. It's too thick. So use the paper towel. It really soaks up a lot more. I mean, you can squeeze it and get as much out that way before you go in circles. But I just got blue paint all over it from the dirty paper towel. But the paper towel really does a better job of drying it than anything else I've done. Like even like an old t-shirt does not dry as well. The paper towel works. So, I mean, it's similar to your hair. If you've ever had to hair dry your hair, drying it in a paper towel versus a towel. The paper towel will soak more up. So you may dry it out first with the paper towel or with a towel to get most of it out, but then take a paper towel and it will soak up even more than what the towel was able to do. And it's very similar in this case. Okay. Jason Ellis said, where have you found the charcoal white generals in set? Because I can't locate them unless they come with the black charcoal and not in large quantities. I've bought them in packs of like 10, just bulk at Dick Blick, and they just send it in the original box. So that's where I get mine. Michael said that chair was bumped over by the ghost of the high school art teacher passed. Oh, and that woman is long. Like, there's no way she's still with us. She was old when I was young, and I am old. So I really doubt. She was miserable. Like, it was just, I can't believe it. She kept her job. Like, it's just, talk about taking money for nothing. Like, she was basically a babysitter. She was just in the classroom. I've got paint all over my, look at me. From grabbing that paper towel. She was just in the classroom as a babysitter. She didn't teach anything. She didn't do anything. It was pretty bad. And the thing that bugs me is it's so common. And I don't know if it's that common with other teachers in other classes. Mine, they were all good about helping and giving, because I like math. I get good grades, but I'm also bad at math. Bad at math. So I would have to go early before school, stay after school, and get additional tutoring from my teachers. And they always, all of them, always helped me. So that was, she was not one of those. She didn't do that. Like all my other teachers were good. My nose itches now because I don't want to scratch it with my painted hands. I think that's why it itches. It's in my brain. Let's see. Oops, there we go. Lynn said, my Photoshop teacher in college was a flippin' moron. Yeah, college teachers, that's one thing. Like people that ask if they should go to college to be an artist. No, I don't think you should. Very few cases did I see the artist come out and produce better work than they did when they went in. In most cases, yeah, it depends on your teacher for sure. I know a few who do phenomenal work after college. I know a lot more who went in loving realism and left painting. It looks like they painted it with a broken knee. Tape a brush to their broken knee and then paint it. I mean, it is just impressively bad what I've seen a lot of these kids come out of school doing. And I mean, it's not even, it looks like a child. I say childlike, and I don't mean like some people would say Picasso is childlike. Picasso has skill. Picasso knew what he was doing. You may not like him, but he knew what he was doing in that style. That's not what this is. They're coming out painting things that aren't even good for what it's supposed to be, and they were good when they went into school. So now they're in debt. and want to be a professional artist, good luck paying off that debt on an artist budget. Like, what in the world? But I've not been impressed with very many college art teachers. There are a handful who are phenomenal and have produced students who are also phenomenal. But most students that go into college, they were good at art before they went to college. Most professional artists, I would love to know statistics. I can't talk. Actually, most students who were good before college. Most students who were bad were still bad after college. College didn't make a difference one way or another. It may have exposed them to a few different materials, maybe, but I've really not been impressed with what I've seen, honestly. You think you're going to go to college and your work is going to get refined. No, they're going to almost warp it. And I remember when the first art gallery that I was a part of was called Angels Galleria. It was in the Pomona Arts Colony. It's no longer there, unfortunately, because it was really cool. And it had really amazing candles. Great experience, or great environment. But one of the other artists there, he painted these space scenes. That was his big thing, or the space scenes, and he was really good. And people would always do the same thing with him as they did with me. Oh, are you going to go to college? And he's like, no, I don't want college warping what I create. Or I don't remember how he worded it. I'm paraphrasing. But I don't want them distorting my view, my vision, what I'm creating. And I remember as a young, I was 19 at the time thinking, you're an idiot. No, he was a freaking genius. He was correct. The stuff, like if he was already good, he would have come out of college, hopefully still being good, but there's a very good chance they would have him reverted to some kind of weird abstract stuff he wasn't otherwise interested in. And it's, again, not bashing abstract stuff. If that's what you're into, go for it. I have no problem. I like a lot of abstract work. But if that's not your goal, these teachers kind of try to force you to do what they're doing, and they're not the best teachers. If you can find an actual, a professional artist who teaches classes, you're going to learn so much more from them than any class. I can't tell you how many times I have heard from my students that when I was teaching in-person classes, that they had taken years and years, 4 years of college of art classes, and they learned more from me in 2 weeks or a month than they learned in all those years of college classes. And what did they pay me? $20 per 2-hour session? A lot cheaper than that college class that they didn't learn what they were hoping to learn. So yeah, I'm not a fan of the college system for most careers, actually. I mean, obviously certain STEM fields you would need to, with the sciences, with medical, legal stuff. There are things that you've obviously got to go to college for, but a lot of what's out there, I don't think college is doing anyone any good besides getting them into debt. You would be better off investing that money, taking that money and putting it into your business. You want to be an artist? You put that into that money that you would have spent on college. You put that into learning business and marketing, online courses, books. You put that into somebody to teach. You put that into your business, buying the supplies. You're going to be so much better off than starting out $125,000 or more in debt for what? For a piece of paper that doesn't mean anything when you're an artist. So, I mean, I'm not saying you shouldn't be proud if you've earned one, but it doesn't make a difference. If you have one and I don't have one, that isn't what's going to determine which one of us is more successful as an artist. It's not a real factor in who's more successful. Usually those who didn't go to school end up being more successful with their career. I don't know, maybe because they're not worrying about debt. I don't know. That's a whole other discussion, but yeah, just some interesting stuff there. I am on a roll with the rants tonight. Okay, let's scroll up. Oh, we've got a few more good questions we're going to go over, and then we'll wrap this up. The auction is almost over. 4 more minutes for this guy. Let's see. Dalton said, how do you feel about AI art? So I ranted about that. Gosh, you guys are just pushing all the rant buttons. I ranted about this a bit in another video. And I will give you a bit of an update since I've been looking into this further. So let's do the Cliff Notes version of my first video. The AI generated art, most of it is not very good. There are people who have figured out what terms to use to manipulate it to get decent art, but the majority of it, not very good. I'm not saying it's not going to get good, but it's not good now. It takes a lot for somebody to get AI art to do anything any good. Some of it, and I've been playing with some of the better ones, Midjourney, I believe, I signed up for them. I've been playing with it myself because I want to see what does it take to get good at it. And I've gotten some stuff that I would use maybe on a blog post if I was writing and I just wanted an image, but nothing like art that's going to sell. Some of the things I'll talk about, the comments comments that I received in my video. So my first point is I'm not afraid of it. It doesn't worry me. No one's losing their job. We'll come back to that because somebody's going to go, oh, I read this on Reddit. Yeah, it's all fan fiction. I read it too. It's all BS. Very, very few people are actually being impacted by it right now. Now, I'm not saying it couldn't happen in the future. Right now, but especially in the UK, they're really being hit. I don't believe they are. I don't believe that. I read these things. It reads like fan fiction. So, and I'll come back to that in a moment. Oh, I'm going to get so many thumbs down. I probably won't turn this into a side video because I don't feel like dealing with the backlash again. My issue with AI art isn't that it's going to put you or me or somebody, a digital artist, it's not going to put in, I don't think it's going to really make a big difference for those who are making a living doing that type of art because it's very specific, and somebody to get good with AI art takes a fair amount of work to learn how to manipulate that system into creating what you want. AI is very bad at hands, feet. It has no idea how many arms or legs anything has. You'll just randomly have extra arms on your subject. So again, I think it will get good. I don't think it's there yet, so I'm not worried about it now. But it's very much like with Photoshop. Everyone's freaking out. Oh, Photoshop's going to put people out of business. Photographers out of business. It's going to put. It didn't. It did. Everyone's fine. You're fine. AI is going to be the same. My problem with AI is the copyright violation. So there is a weird loophole in how it's working. And I've had a lot of people complain and tell me, well, it's not copywriting. It's not copying, because I said that it's almost taking a collage of things it finds online and shoving them together. That's a very basic way to word it. I get it. It's painting its own. It's making it new. You call it what you want. It walks like a duck. It acts like a duck. It's still a copyright violation. So what it's doing is looking and learning from other artists. And people are saying in my comments, trying to tell me that it is the same thing as you or I looking at another artist's painting and then painting one like it. If we can do it, so can the AI. But we can't do it. That's not legal for us to do. We can be inspired by somebody else's work. We cannot copy it. If we copy someone's painting and that artist can look and go, oh, that's from my painting, that artist can sue you. There is a copyright thing, and there's a weird thing with the technology that there's a loophole that the AI is getting around. Although a lot of the AI, I heard Midjourney was going to start doing this, that they were going to start honoring copyright and not using artwork in their system from other artists, because some artists, some really well-known artists, are seeing portions of their work show up in these things. People are able to manipulate, to put in the right prompts and get it to create a painting that looks almost exactly like that work. The cave was the same. The background was the same. That, if I did that, copyright violation. I get hit. I get sued. So the fact that the computer is bypassing some weird law because it's doing the same thing I'm not allowed to do, because that's the complaint that people are making. Well, it's the same thing. It's just learning from it. It's looking at it and being inspired. Being inspired and copying are not the same thing. I can be inspired by another artist's work. I can't copy it. The rule needs to be the same for the AI. So that is my real complaint with the AI stuff, is it is stealing people's work. It is copying it and violating copyright the same way you and I are not allowed to do. That is my issue there. Now, as far as artists are losing their jobs, this is going around on Reddit. I don't know if you guys are aware of what a freaking swamp Reddit is. Most of what you read on there not true. It's fan fiction. Everything's freaking fan fiction. So one story, somebody actually wrote this on mine, a story of that happened to somebody, really happened. Sure it did. They claim that they were working on a book for somebody and they'd already done most of the work. They're finishing up, almost all the way done. The person who hired them came up to him and said, you know what, I've put your style into the AI and I'm just gonna go ahead and finish up the book on my own using AI artwork. I know you'll understand. I can't believe they'd say that they know that they'll understand that they don't need them anymore, that they just lost their job and they were towards the end of the job. Few things. One, artist would have had a contract. That can't happen. Two, or the artist is an idiot and needs to learn business. Probably went to college and that's why he doesn't know. Just kidding. It's all fan fiction. This didn't happen. Nobody who fired somebody so that they could finish the work themselves would say, I'm sure you'll understand. They're do people not see the red flags of these stories? I get it. Most people aren't as discerning. I can pick out a lie pretty far away. This is just, it's riddled with it. The AI, it's not as simple as the random person being like, I'm going to put in this prompt and now this style is going to be just like this artist. It can get kind of close, but it would be very obvious it was different from the original artwork from the beginning portions. There were so many holes in this, and that story gets shared a lot of, oh my gosh, that artist lost their job. People are saying that artists in the UK, mostly it's affecting them there. Why? AI worldwide, why would it affect people in a certain location and not another location as much? Because those people, for whatever reason, are making this crap up of how they didn't get the job or somebody didn't hire them because of AI art. AI art isn't even that good yet. Some of it can be. Not that many people know how to do it well. And then you have the people going, oh, you can get rich doing AI art. You just need to learn how to do it. And you can make this art and make prints. Good. I don't care if somebody does that. I am okay with it as long as it's not violating my copyright, as long as my work is not showing up in theirs. I am okay with that. People have to remember to sell art. And I talked about this earlier tonight. To sell art, it's not as simple as, are you good or are you not good? Is the AI art as good as mine? It's who marketed themselves better. Did the guy who was selling the AI art, did they do a better job marketing themselves, or did I do a better job marketing myself? Because really, that's going to be who gets the sale, who you are drawn to, who you're like connecting with. That means a lot more in many cases than the quality there. And most people, look how many amazing artists out there who make almost no money because they didn't really learn or they don't know how to market themselves. You think people randomly doing AI are going to figure that out? A handful of people might. Not very many. You're not going to lose your jobs over this. You're just not. Or in the case of Reddit, most of these people didn't even have jobs to begin with doing this. A few did. I'm not saying it's not going to affect anyone. There's always going to be exceptions. But the stories I'm reading that everyone is spreading around, they're all fan fiction. They are made up. They are not true. Every single one that was shared with me was BS. All of them. It's not hard to tell the holes in the story and know that it wasn't true. So it's very frustrating to me, this whole AI argument, because it's just not as big of a deal as people are making it out to be, except the copyright thing. But I do think, and I hope sooner rather than later, that the laws catch up, because this is something that needs to be formed to make it so that the AI has to follow the exact same copyright laws that us artists do. That's all I'm asking. I don't care that it exists. I'm not threatened by it. If somebody has fun with it, I was playing around with it. It was fun. I was hoping, what I would like to see from AI is to be able to create some sort of a scene and have lighting done to where it was natural. Like I could put a light ball here and have the glow cast out everything around it so I could see how the lighting would be in a kind of surreal setting. It can't do that right now. Nothing I've tried can do that. I would like to take my own photo, and I have ideas of things I would like to see AI do. It would be amazing to help you see how light and shadow and stuff like that. I have hopes for it. I'm not anti-AI. I actually really do have hopes for where it's going to go. And I think those who are panicking and it's the end of the world, I think that they're overreacting a bit. I think that the copyright issue is a big deal. So there we go. That was a long rant. I don't know if I'm going to make this into a separate one because it'll get me some views, but it also brings in people who don't research and don't actually know what copyright is. Like the guy who told me that the copyright thing, like you guys can do it, so can the AI. We can't do it though. You don't know how copyright works because we cannot do that. So it shouldn't. Okay, breathe, Lisa. Moving on. Couple more questions. I think this guy, the auction is over. What did he go for? Oh, it never actually shows me. I have to go to the page. New order. Yay, $95. Oh, yay too. I don't want to say your name because I don't know if you want people to know you won. Yay, I'm excited. Oh, it's pretty. You're going to love it. It's so much prettier in person. I'm excited. Okay, let's see. I'll answer a couple more questions. We're going to wrap this up because while this video processes so that I can edit it tomorrow, I'm going to go play Hogwarts. Anyone else playing that right now? Jack said, I think the people that are rude to those who do realistic art are jealous as they never put the time and practice in themselves. In many cases, I think you're right, honestly. One of the things, God, I'm doing too many rants tonight. One of the things that gets me are the people who will insist that art has to have feeling and emotion. If it doesn't have that, it's not real art. But these are the same people who think that a toilet sitting against a wall that's half chipped is somehow art. I've actually saw that one not that long ago, or I saw a photo of it. But art, okay, you can't decide what makes me feel. Cactus may make me have a feeling. Usually when I bump against it, it's not a good feeling. But everyone is going to respond to art differently. And sometimes it is as simple as, I thought that was pretty and I wanted to create it. Does that mean it's not art? Because by your definition, the toilet over there, that one was art. But mine, that's beautiful, that took a ton of time, 20-something years, 25, 30 years of refining my skill to create, that's not art because you didn't feel anything when you saw it. Okay, because you get emotional over a toilet, that's a you thing, not a me thing. My art, if I feel that it's pretty, there's my feeling. I felt it was pretty. somehow my view isn't as valid as the guy who has a thing for toilets, which we should probably find help for. But it always is funny to me, the people who want to dictate, well, this is what I've decided art is, and you have to think the same thing because I am superior to you in all ways. Yeah, you go worship the little toilet you found that was broken. What is with me in the rants tonight? My God, I don't think I've had this many in forever. Dalton said, if any of the people from Picasso's paintings came to life, they would probably look like something out of a horror movie. Wouldn't you think? Absolutely. Michael Perry said, are you still picking on that blue dot on a white canvas painting? Forever. Okay, I think we're just about, I'm going to go through these really quick because we're cutting into Hogwarts time here, people. But you had good questions, and I can't stop ranting. Lorda said, my professors wouldn't listen when I said I was interested in realism. They told me I have to be looser and equate that with being better. The style is cool. I think it's just not what I'm about. Exactly. Everybody is going to have a different style, and there's nothing wrong with that. And somebody who dictates and says you have to do theirs. Now, if somebody comes to my class, you're coming to my class to take realism. You're not coming to me to learn abstract. So if somebody came to me expecting me to teach them abstract, I'd be like, why are you here? If you're taking my class, this is what I teach. So in that sense, I can understand. But also, don't tell them that their method isn't like abstract. If you like abstract, go for it. If you're doing it because you genuinely love the look of it, there is nothing wrong with it. Just don't. Usually, most students that came to me when I got like kind of dragged it out of them or like asked more questions, I would find that they were doing it because they felt it was easy and their skill level. So that's a common thing. Sonic the Hedgehog said, what was the art community in the 90s look and feel like? There wasn't really one. So you got to remember in the 90s, this is before most people had internet. I didn't even get a computer till 98. So Windows 98. But there wasn't that much. As far as a community, let's say you went to art shows, art galleries, that sort of thing, that would be your community. And most artists did not want to share their knowledge at all. They were very secretive in this idea of, if I tell you how to do what I'm doing, you're going to take it, you're going to steal my idea, and I won't get as much business. I mean, there's an old guy, he was at Aquashella several years ago, I haven't seen him lately, but he had beautiful work, and I don't know what he was doing to create it. It was like on metal, it was shiny, it was amazing. But he had the same attitude that those in the 80s and 90s and before had of, I'm not going to even tell you what materials I used. He wouldn't tell you. Why would I buy art for thousands of dollars if I don't even know what it's made out of? But it was his proprietary type thing. Like, it's mine. I'm not sharing that information because I don't want somebody else to copy it. And it's kind of funny. It's like, yeah, but you mastered it. So that would be like me not wanting anyone to learn oil painting because it might take away from my business. Not really how art works, but there are probably some people upset about AI. But that was a very common thing, like how that gentleman was. And he wasn't rude. So I don't want to, I'm not bashing him. But it was a very typical thing. He was older, so that makes sense. He comes from that time period where people didn't want to share. They didn't want to give you advice. They didn't want to tell you anything that might help you. So when you were a young artist trying to get going, good freaking luck. Like, unless you took art classes where somebody was teaching, okay. But if you went to an art gallery or you were walking around, so the Pomona Arts Colony, I would walk around down there. If you talked to an artist, they were so snooty to anybody else. They looked down on everybody else. They didn't want to share stuff. You'd get a few that were friendly, but it was weird the way people behaved then versus now. I think we've moved into an area where everyone's more used to sharing. I mean, everything's online. I show you guys every step, especially Patreon. You're watching that. Most of that's in real time. You are seeing everything. There are no secrets. If I can think of something to share with you, I share it with you. I want you guys to do well. I'm not afraid you're going to hurt my business. You're a different artist. You're going to create something different. That's not going to hurt me. That only helps. I want more artists. So that is, I would say, the biggest difference between the 80s and the 90s, at least what I experienced in California versus the internet. You have way more people wanting to help and talk people through things than the 90s where I'm not telling you my secrets. Jason said, when are you not ranting most of the time? When I'm not talking. I just had so much tonight. Lorda said, my high school art professor is actually who helped me develop the most college professors just steer me out of what I'm actually into. Yeah, and you can occasionally get, whether it be college or high school, you're going to get that one-off teacher who's phenomenal and amazing, and everyone should take classes with them. But they're few and far between. The majority of what I hear from people and what I've experienced, not like that. Joseph said, not good. You mean all dogs don't have 7 arms and 2 tongues? Nonsense. And a fin on the back? Yeah, weird, right? Okay, are we wrapped up? One more. Art of Raven D said he used to have a friend who said she wouldn't want to teach art because she didn't want to reveal her secrets, even though they're not the only one with the style of art. Exactly. It's a very weird thing. And, you know, going back to the AI thing, oh, my brain just shut. I had the idea and it just shut down. There was something else people kept saying that was ridiculous, and I can't think, oh, that's going to drive me crazy because I'm going to edit that if I decide to use it. And, crap, what was the other thing that they kept saying with the AI? It was very similar. I don't know. The other thing, and this is why I was actually going to do a bigger rant on the AI thing back when this all happened. And when I started, the more I looked into AI, because people kept telling me, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and take the time to do research. And I did. I was actually really interested in like both sides. What I found when I was looking at videos, most videos of people who were freaking out about AI were very fragile people crying about what could happen, not what did happen. They're so afraid of everything in this world. They are just terrified. And I mean, it was sad. And that was why I decided at that point not to do it, because I'm like, I'm not trying to help the people who are arguing with me. These are people who are driven by emotion, not by logic. And I'm sad they feel that way. I'm sad that they're having a mental breakdown. That was the thing. A lot of them are saying too many young artists aren't going to want to be artists now because they think there's no point because of AI art. That's the thing about artists. We create because we have a drive to create. We want to create. It wouldn't matter if I was working at McDonald's, I would still be painting when I got off work, because that's what I love to do. So, and then people would expect me to give it to them for free. I guess that would solve some people's problems. But they seem to think that artists aren't going to pick it up. If somebody whines, oh, I'm not going to be an artist then, you weren't going to be a very good one anyway. You didn't take it serious. You don't have the passion. If that's the thing that holds you back, and I know I already ranted about it drives me crazy when teachers discourage somebody, but if the thing that makes you think I'm not going to create art is that an AI also creates art, well, then you shouldn't create art because I create art. You shouldn't create art because tons of your neighbors create it too. Why would you bother? Why should you if they can do it? That's the stupidest argument. And I see this a lot from people crying, young people aren't going to be artists. I'm not kidding you. Tears in these videos. They're not going to be artists anymore. What are you talking about? If somebody gives up because of that, they weren't going to be one in the first place. That's not like a thing. I mean, good job on your fan fiction. I appreciate the tears. You got the emotion. Please use logic next time. Oh, I'm going to get hate for that. No one's going to watch this far in the video, so I doubt I would include that. But yeah. Anyway, that is tonight's video. Thank you guys for joining. I don't know what next week is. Crap, I need to come up with something for next week. It'll be posted tomorrow, whatever it is, with the reference photo on my website. Thank you for joining. Check out our moderators' channels. All of them are linked in the video description. I know Joseph, he is streaming every Monday. Look, I got your name that time and then I stalled. I can't, for some reason, share Joseph's information without like stuttering and sounding like an idiot, and I don't know why. Anyways, thank you guys again for joining, and I will see you next week. Bye.
Hey, you. Yes, you. I see all your unused art supplies over there. Oh my god, those brushes aren't even opened yet. Tragic. You keep buying new fancy materials, but you don't use them because you don't want to waste them. Stop making your art supplies sad. Sign up for art lessons for as little as $4 a month. There are over 300 painting and drawing lessons available when you sign up, and new ones every week. Patreon.com/Lachri.